Patricia Clarkson stars in the film Monica. I'm David Buchanan with Gold Derby. Patricia, this film is so raw and emotional and intimate. Was this one of the hardest roles you've ever undertaken in your career?
Yes, 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 yes. It's one of the most beautiful because it's such a complicated woman, which is of course what I like to play. Um, but David, as actors, I'm a very verbal actress. I'm a very physical person. I'm a very verbal person. But you know, playing Eugenia, I was robbed of both of those. Our assets. I had neither. And but it's one of the fastest yeses of my career. First of all, because it was giving an exceptional transgender actress the lead of a film. She was not the secondary character. It's her story. Let me be the backup singer. And but also I it was so challenging. I just didn't know. The silence was almost deafening, and I had to take on a part that would require me to really almost change my DNA. And but I thought it was beautiful, and I couldn't say no to Andrea Paloro. Who can say no to Andrea Paloro? Nobody. um, it's one of the most beautiful experiences, as difficult as it was. It's one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had in my career. Yeah.
I think that really comes across on screen. And you took the words out of my mouth. What I wanted to ask you is, like as you said, very little dialogue. I mean, obviously, you do have many scenes with many of the characters, but it's not there's not long kind of conversations, family conversations.
Mm-mm.
How do you build a character, and how do you find the interiority of Eugenia when there's not a lot on the page? How do you parse those words, and how do you kind of find your way into this character?
I knew the only route into this character was an emotional route. Was a mother who had in essence lost a child, who was dying, who was in the ninth hour of their life, at the very, 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 that's what I knew. Every day on the set I was on the verge of death, and it was daunting, and it was depressing. And it was interesting, on the days I would shoot every day, but I had Trace. I had the extraordinary Trace. I had the extraordinary Adriana Barazza, one of the greatest. I had these consummate actresses and actors, Josh, Close, and Emily, these beautiful actors surrounding me. But what was interesting is on some days in the set, when I would finish shooting, everybody would rush to help me. I was fine. It's just people would, everybody would try to help me to get out of the bed, or I'd start to go down the stairs, and they'd be no, 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 and I'd be like, no, you guys, I'm fine. As Patty, I'm actually okay. I can go up and down stairs, but it was such an emotional journey. But I knew it was the journey of love, and it was as simple as that, and it was about truth. The only way to take on a part like this is sheer truth. And I was fortunate that I really, really love Trace, and I love Monica. Therefore, and sometimes art and life does have to come together. It really does. And, I felt very maternal to her instinctually, immediately. I held on to that. I knew it would serve me later in the movie. But I knew it was still a mother who grew up in a certain life, a certain strata, a certain place. A child had left, and that I think she had given up, because I don't think she wanted to live anymore. But then when she realizes that she has the moment of unconditional love and a rapprochement, she has a moment for forgiveness and unconditional love. it's something that will stay with me. It will stay with me the rest of my life. How I felt to in that character and how I feel about Monica, Trace, it will stay with me forever. I can't, I don't know, it just lives inside of me because it was such a profound moment, I think, for this woman. And I had to be there for that. And I've played some, very difficult parts, very emotional parts, but there was something very beautiful to me about the fact that this child will die with the love of her mother. This child will live with the love of her mother. The mother will die with the love of her child in her. And I think, that's Andrea, taking on this very intense and but yet very familiar. I can't tell you the emails and texts I've gotten from people in this part. It's staggering. I mean, of people who have been through some form of this with a parent or a sister or a brother or a child or something, that it's such a universal film, even though, of course, it has this remarkable transgender woman at the center. It's still ultimately about life and family and death and forgiveness,
Yeah, it is an incredibly beautiful film and two beautiful performances at its center. I did want to ask you, part of what's so powerful about the film to me is how much is left unsaid. You're communicating so much with your bodies and just being with each other. We don't have to have all of that dialogue to kind of explain the connection. Why do you find that more powerful in this film than in kind of, explaining everything to the audience? Because it really just lets the audience kind of come to it, and learn with the characters.
I think it's Andrea respecting the intelligence and the emotional lives of an audience, of how, when everything is explained for us, what's the journey? Instead, we fill in the journey in our own ways. And I think that's why this film, more so than pretty much anything, has so deeply affected people in a way I wasn't quite sure. But it's so interesting. My best friend Ricky, he was of course at the New York premiere, and he said, Patty, at times you and Trace were like silent movie stars. You were like silent screen stars. And it was so much of what Trace and I had to portray or convey came just simply from what was deep inside of us. You had to feel us and know. And everything was not spoken, everything was felt. And that's a rare moment. I just did a screening of this film at the Financial Times of London with some pretty, banker people, pretty, not a deeply artistic crowd, but they were so deeply affected by this film. And it's, again, such a testament to Andrea Paloro, who I wouldn't say took a risk or a gamble. He's just too talented for that. But he saw a path, he saw a film, and he knew that people would understand the language of this film. They didn't have to be explained to, or there wasn't endless amounts of dialogue to take you to these places. He said, I'll let you come to these places with me,
I want to ask you more about Andrea because I find the camera work in this film really incredible. The camera placement, the blocking, just beautiful and unexpected. I mean, it's really, the way he frames a lot of the shots, very unexpected. What is it like for you as a performer? Do you know where the camera is at all times? And at what point do how much are you paying attention to that or kind of letting that disappear as you perform?
Well, I will tell you this first and foremost, that this movie required all of us to check vanity and ego at the door. That was not allowed. I mean, I look pretty good right now, but I look at you, man. I saw the film once, and that's all I can. That's all my ego can handle. But, but no, I mean, first of all, our cinematographer is astonishing, and she just shot the whole last, the entire last episode, all the last episodes of Succession, and you know, she and Andrea had this just communication, this symbiosis, and he wanted to do the ratio. He wanted it to be portrait and intimate, and I never knew. Sometimes I literally had to keep my elbows in, or I never knew when I was on camera or off camera, or what part of me was on camera. It was freeing. I just knew every day I would, this is going to sound so, I just had to die a little bit every day. That's all I had to bring. I had to show up every day, and parts of my body were not going to work, and that I just didn't care. I knew it would be beautiful because, of the artistry, also the production. It's one of the best crews I've ever worked with in my life. And so I knew that I knew it would be something artistic and gorgeous. And the fact that we were shooting it on film was so yummy, but at the helm was Kate Arismandes and Andrea. So they dictated it. I had to just give over and know that wherever that camera is, it's most important for the story, because the story, what's left out of the scene, what is left out of the frame is as important as what's in it. So,
I have to ask you more specifically about working with Trace Lysette, who is incredible in the film.
Incredible. Yeah.
How much time did you have before shooting to get to know one another and build the rapport that, as we've been saying, so much is unspoken in that relationship, but the kind of familial bond there, even though obviously it's a fractured relationship, the bond there is so palpable. How much time did you have to kind of get to know one another and explore that and build that before shooting?
Well, the first time I met Trace was during Emmys, during Sharp Objects Emmy year, whenever that was. And we were both at this Emmy party, and I had been cast. She was cast first, of course, and that's when I got the script and was told that she would be Monica. And I was so excited because I knew of her from Transparent and a few other things. But I saw her across a crowded room at an Emmy party. And I'll never forget it. I saw her and I wanted to shout to everybody, "That's my daughter." And we made eye contact. We kind of went running towards each other. And it was very sweet and it was immediate. And we work in a very similar way, which really helped us. We're both very internal actresses. We're both actresses. We don't want to talk a lot about things. We don't like rehearsing. We don't care what each of us had for breakfast or what happened to us the night before. We show up on a set to work, and Trace is consummate. She is an actress, extraordinaire, and she brought the goods every single day. She brought the goods, and that's what great actors do. And so I got to share in that gift, and I used it in every way I could. And again, my love for her, I had to keep at times low, but I knew that at a certain point it could, that fountain could erupt, and it would be something I wouldn't have to reach for because I had it easily. inside of me. And I just, we really got on and still do. And I just texted with her the other day, and I, I'm, it's one of the most beautiful working relationships I've ever had. It's one that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and important in a lot of ways. Important, and I'm thankful, very, very thankful.
Well, it's lovely to hear. And I think it also really translates. I want to ask you in particular about the bathtub scene towards the end of the film, which I think, for people who haven't seen it, pause the interview, go watch the film right now, and then come back, because I think that really is kind of the highlight and the climax of the entire film, that, unspoken, beautiful scene. Take us inside your head when you were prepping for that, and what is your character thinking in that moment?
Well, it's one of the reasons I took the film. It's one of the reasons I said yes so quickly, because I thought it was extraordinary. And I knew that day was coming as we started to shoot. It was probably a couple of weeks in. I knew I would be naked in this bathtub with my child bathing me. I mean, it all was so almost biblical. It was all so almost too much to bear. But I had to, again, it comes back to the fact that in the dying weeks of this woman, she finds and understands in a profound way what unconditional love is. As disabled as she is, as fragile, as kind of out of it at moments as she is, as this her beautiful child is bathing her, she knows this is her child. She knows it. She feels it. This child is helping her. She finally realizes, I love you. I love you. I love you. You are my child. You are my child. You are my child. End of story. There's nothing needs to be said. Nothing needs to be explained. I love you. And that's Andrea Palora. Letting that, it's one of the first scenes I told you that they wrote. So I think it was the first scene. And it was very simple in an odd way, because I had I had it in my heart, as corny as it sounds. And we did 2 takes, and the whole crew was crying. So at one point they were crying so loudly we had to stop shooting. Because for Orlando, for Andrea, for the producers who had taken so long to get this film made, so many doors had been slammed in their face. It took so long to find the perfect Monica, which was Trace. And then, something about this scene I think was emblematic of the whole experience for all of us. We had thought we were shooting in the middle of COVID. We had all gathered in Cincinnati. And suddenly, just this, I think it was just a moment for all of us that was life and art coming together in this moment. Me in a bathtub, Trace by my side. Kate, as Mandy's holding that camera, oh my God. Yeah. But it's just, but it's why we do. It's why we make these films. And I don't want to sound precious, because it's not. It's actually one of the least precious films I've ever been in. It's just true. And it required everything of us. It did.
Well, Patricia Clarkson, congratulations on a truly extraordinary performance and a wonderful film. Thank you so much for talking to Gold Derby today.
David, you're such a dreamboat. Thank you.